Okay. 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 Thank you, Vanessa. Thanks, everybody, for coming and joining me today, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to share my dissertation research with you, which I completed 3 years ago. So today I'm gonna talk about transnational reproduction that has formed between Turkey and neighboring Turkish-speaking Northern Cyprus since the early 2000s to facilitate access to reproductive services which are legally unavailable in Turkey. Particularly, I focused on disguised reproductive travels of Turkish couples to Northern Cyprus for donor gametes. The data I use comes from the ethnographic research I conducted in a small private fertility clinic in Northern Cyprus, which I call Clinic Delta. And I conducted this research between late 2014 until to early 2016. I mean, like throughout 2015, actually. STS-informed feminist anthropological and sociological studies on transnational reproduction have increased since the 2000s, as the scale of the phenomena itself has expanded almost across the world. And much of this cross-border travel for reproductive technologies, for egg donation, sperm donation, or surrogacy, is a consequence of legislation that limits the availability of these technologies or bans certain categories of people from accessing these technologies, as many studies have showed us. Scholarship on transnational reproduction has shown us how this standardized, intensifying practices of cross-border technologized and commodified production have impacted the notions of kinship, family, procreation, and gender by underlying the processes of the co-production of the technical and the social. New biotechnologies, including reproductive and genetic technologies, have now made available a new molecular level of intervention in manipulation and governance of life itself beyond the classical Codian biopolitical poles of the individual and the population. My study ethnographically contributes to the existing scholarship on transnational reproduction in the Middle East and beyond by exploring the specificity of the relationship between Turkey and Northern Cyprus. Both are now popular reproductive destinations in the region. My talk aims to demonstrate how biopolitical regulations and everyday practices of cross-border production create and reinforce national and familial borders and ideals. My research thus reveals the paradoxical aspects of Turkish biopolitics within and across national borders, in which certain reproductive lives and futures are valued and promoted, while others are devalued, controlled, and even punished, as it is defined, described as selective and stratified reproduction in the literature. So I will share my screen with you. Okay. Can you see it? Let me know if it shifts weirdly. Okay.
No, yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So in this talk, I will address mainly two questions. One, how do Turkish citizens pursue their circumventive travels for gamete donation, which is socially stigmatized and legally forbidden in Turkey? And with its transnational reproductive services, what role does Northern Cyprus play in the making and remaking of the Turkish family? So in responding to these questions, I argue that the normalization of assisted reproduction in Turkey rests upon the national ban on gamete donation, as long as access to donor gametes continue to be available transnationally and secretly. And second, through a transnational reproductive network, Northern Cyprus constitutes a socio-technical, ethico-political, discursive, and geographical space at the margins of, but fully integral to Turkey's reproductive biopolitics. So in this socio-technical space, secrecy is essential to ability of diverse actors, including couples, donors, fertility clinics, and the Turkish and Northern Cypriot states to sustain national and family ideals. By focusing on the embodied dimensions of secrecy, I frame secrecy as a social practice that is a situational, relational, and mobile tactic. I am here following the Hardon and Possel's definition of secrecy, actually. And in anthropological and sociological literature on gamete donation, secrecy often has been discussed from the donor and gamete recipient's perspective, mostly in relation to regimes of anonymity and practices of disclosure, with implications for recipient parent-children relations and for notions of relatedness. So secrecy has been a kind of a popular issue in the studies of gamete donation. It's not surprising to many national contexts. However, with current policy trends that are moving towards the transparency and casting anonymity as undesirable in gamete donation, regulatory changes are being introduced in some European countries that refigure regimes of secrecy. And yet, inspired by George Simmels' classic work on secrecy, anthropological and sociological studies have recognized the generative, productive potential of secrecy for constituting self, society, and culture beyond its merely negative and antisocial evaluations. In other words, to conceal things is also to create things. Here I investigate the productive role of secrecy in the creation and maintenance of cross-border gamete donation and the formation of gendered subjects. So feminist STS scholar Keres Thompson, focusing on IVF clinics in the United States, analyzes the use of reproductive technologies as ontological choreography, to underline that reproductive technologies are not just about making babies, but they are also about making parents and also about producing norms and ideals and expectations. Thompson's ontological choreography refers to the dynamic coordination of the social world and the material world, including scientific, kinship, legal, political, financial aspects of the world of reproductive technologies. Inspired by and expanding this framework, I argue that disguised reproductive travels to Northern Cyprus for donor gametes entail not only ontological choreographies, but also epistemological choreographies. Epistemological choreographies are used to perform a hetero-bionormative family ideal to constantly navigate the fragile politics of knowing around the use of donor gametes. Of course, it's not surprising to find out that Turkish couples try to keep their gamete donations and their travels abroad for donor gamete secret, given the legal, social, and moral stigmatization of gamete donation in Turkey. However, it was strikingly surprising to realize how they do so, how they perform these epistemological choreographies. Before I go into the details, ethnographic details, first, I would like to give you some background story to set the stage. In Turkey, since its inception in the late 1980s, IVF has been legally accessible only to married heterosexual couples to create a child using their own gametes. So all forms of third-party reproduction, including donor gametes, embryos, or using another woman's wombs as a surrogate, are strictly prohibited. So the IVF legislation defines and reinforces heteronormatively legitimate and proper ways of procreation and legitimate and proper ways of being parents and reproductive citizens. Despite the morally and legally problematic status of third-party reproduction, it is known that Turkish citizens are seeking in secrecy such forbidden means of reproduction within the country or abroad. For example, Turkey's first sperm scandal broke out in a public university hospital in Adana, a major city in southern Turkey. It happened in 2001, when a fertility doctor was accused of impregnating his patients with sperm from strangers, mostly from medical students, allegedly without the couple's knowledge. After a 2-year trial, the doctor was found guilty and sentenced to 3 years of imprisonment for the offense of abusing professional power. But a nurse from the same hospital claimed that the couples had known about the practice of using other sperm, but they remained silent during the investigation. At the same time, it was also generally known from national news reports that some Turkish citizens were traveling abroad to bypass the national ban on gamete donation. The trial following the sperm scandal and national news articles on cross-border reproductive travels reveal the concealment of a secret, a public secret, by the state and by the members of the society, acting as if they don't know what is known by everybody. So like toxic public secrecy. However, in 2010, the AKP government, ruling the country since the early 2000s, went further and forbade reproductive travels abroad for donor gametes. This ban on gamete donation reveals the selective and stratified nature of current pronatalist agenda of the AKP government. This pronatalist agenda encourages births, but within certain limits. Reproduction should take place within the heteropatriarchal limits of marriage and family. Not every forms of procreation are recognized or supported. So within this reproductive biopolitical context, Turkey's sperm bank debate that emerged in the late 2000s and led to the introduction of 2010 ban was also striking. So here we see, so it is kind of late 2000, like around 2007, 8. So some single Turkish female celebrities publicly announced that they got pregnant using donor sperm abroad, and their statements created a hot public debate and revealed again gamete donation as a public secret, but it became revealed through such statements. And the media coverage of the sperm bank debate and the subsequent 2010 ban on transnational gamete donation was interesting in a number of ways. First, donor conception was exclusively associated with sperm donation, not with egg or embryo donation. Second, some commentaries emphasize the ethnic origin of donor sperm with such titles as Danish sperm. So such commentaries reflected the national masculine ideologies and anxieties by sexualizing single Turkish women's reproductive acts through the perceived image of fertile and virile foreign sperm impregnating Turkish women. So similar national masculine concerns emerge around Turkish couples travels to Greece and Crete as well. And third, with the hyper visibility of single female celebrities seeking donor sperm, the discussion of sperm banks became stereotypically associated with single motherhood, and this further marginalized married couples suffering from infertility by making them publicly more invisible, although sperm banks had initially emerged as a secret solution to male infertility. And here we see, so here, for example, on the top, we see the headline says, she got pregnant via sperm bank, and the other one says, up to 3 years imprisonment for making babies via sperm bank, referring to the 2010 regulation. So the 2010 regulation can be defined a moment of the Turkish national masculinist restoration, to use Deniz Kandiyati's term, masculinist restoration in millennial Turkey, when, as Kandiyati defines it, heteropatriarchy as usual is no longer fully secure and requires higher levels of coercion and the deployment of more varied ideological state apparatuses to ensure its reproduction. So while single women seeking donor sperm abroad were condemned for their illegitimate path to motherhood, meanwhile, the same Turkish government tried to limit women's access to abortion, arguing that women seeking abortion were to be condemned for rejecting motherhood. So we here see the selective nature of the AKP government's pronatalism. This time, Turkish Cypriot Physicians Union unexpectedly joined Turkey's abortion debate from overseas. So here it says, so it's a representative from the Turkish Cypriot Physicians Union. He says, we don't want to be Turkey's backyard anymore. Casinos were prohibited in Turkey and everybody came to the Northern Cyprus. So this is the official name of the Northern Cyprus, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. The same thing happened with tube baby. And now if abortion were to be banned in Turkey, everybody will come to Northern Cyprus to get an abortion. Yet the same thing happened with IVF tourism, and it still continues to happen despite all legal efforts to restrict it. Since it is nearly impossible to enforce a ban on transnational reproduction, Turkey's 2000 ban remains largely symbolic, but it has clearly created practical obstacles for Turkish citizens who are considering gamete donation abroad. And the threat of criminal charges has also limited the public presence and circulation of donor conception in the discursive space in Turkey. So thus this situation contributed to the status of gamete donation as a public secret. For example, during my fieldwork at Clinic Delta, I met Ahmet, a Turkish IVF doctor who is involved in this transnational reproductive network between Turkey and Northern Cyprus. He involved in this network by sending his patients to Northern Cyprus clinics, including Clinic Delta, for gamete donation. And sometimes he is also traveling with his patients to conduct embryo transfers himself. Dr. Ahmet explicitly referred to the public secret in Turkey of the transnational gamete donation. So his words, "It is public, in fact. Everybody generally knows, but pretends not to know it. 2,000 couples, 6,000 people travel from Turkey to Cyprus per year for reproductive services. If their parents, siblings are included, at least 10 more people are affected by this thing. 3,000 times 10, 30,000 people per year affected by this. We are a crime gang of 30,000 people, if we call it a crime gang. It is even bigger than the mafia, though. I don't know if there is such a big mafia, and yet what's done is not wrong in social conscience. There is no smuggling, rape, or theft. It's only 500 persons per month seeking to have a child. It's nothing like the mafia smuggling heroin into the country." So providing an island site, both physically and imaginarily distant from the homeland, for reproductive acts forbidden in Turkey, Northern Cyprus has become constitutive and reflective of Turkish reproductive biopolitics. It does so by protecting the public facade, not only of Turkish couples who are using donor gametes to have children, if they have financial means, of course, but also to protect public facade of the Turkish and Northern Cyprus clinics and medical sector as a legitimate medical business, and even to protect the public facade of the Turkish state as able to ensure its sovereign power over its citizens. Reproductive tourism between Turkey and Northern Cyprus thus constitutes a transnational politics of complicity and duplicity, if to use climate terminology. So in politics of complicity and duplicity involving diverse actors at multiple levels and with different but interrelated stakes. So meanwhile, in Northern Cyprus, following the 2010 ban, Turkey's 2010 ban on transnational reproduction, what's happening in Northern Cyprus? So when I visited the island for the first time in 2012, it was right like after the 2010 ban, and it was the summer of 2012, just like the abortion debate broke out. So clinics seemed a little bit nervous about the situation. They were not sure like what's happening, and they kind of waited for a while. But in like 5 years, when I started my fieldwork in like late 2014, like 2015, I saw, like, I observed the number of IVF clinics doubled, increased like from around 7, 8 to like 14, 15 in like 5 years following the 2010 ban. And also a related ban in 2009 actually was introduced in Northern Cyprus to prevent Northern Cyprus clinics to provide gamete donation to Turkish citizens. So there was political pressure on the Northern Cyprus. So this regulation was introduced, just limit clinics to provide donor gametes to Turkish citizens. So it was allowed to provide this to other others, but not Turkish citizens coming from Turkey. So despite these two legal barriers, restrictions, so the number of clinics doubled. And in the post-2000 ban context, and this increase in the clinics, in the number of clinics also makes sense in light of recent neoliberal socioeconomic transformations that have turned the island into an investment arena for Turkish capital, including the Turkish IVF industry. So because we see like how Turkish capital made enormous investment in the tourism, like gambling tourism, or recently also online betting is becoming very popular, and like sex tourism. So there are like different gray economies and kind of turning the island and profitable investment arena for Turkish capital. And now we see like the IVF industry, medical sector also kind of joining this process. And IVF clinics and doctors in both countries have complex medical business relations, and even some clinics, Turkish clinics, open branches in the northern part and send their patients to these clinics. And some clinics also have, like including the Clinic Delta, they have some IVF doctor representatives, like pharmaceutical companies. So not just it is a kind of business relationship between clinics and clinics, but also especially like small clinics like Clinic Delta, because some big clinics, they have like more public presence on social media. Especially it was just before the like social media became very popular, like 2015. But there, of course, there were like popular online sites like used by women who are seeking like reproductive services. So when I checked, for example, when I visited the clinics to like talk to them, they were rejecting that they are not providing any reproductive services to the Turkish citizens. But when I checked online platforms, I could see like the posts by women who are actually like openly saying the names of doctors and the clinics. So there was also like a huge, and still there is like a huge competition among the clinics, because like the number of clinics increases, and also like the share like decreases according to their accounts. Like they say, like the share of the cake is decreasing, and like competition becomes very harsh. So some clinics develop like such business relations with individual doctors in like in every corner of Turkey, including like small towns. So the clinic I did my research, it didn't have much like public presence online. So this like representative kind of very effective for their for their business to like reach to patients. And egg donors are also mostly recruited from Turkish citizens who live on the island or travel from Turkey for egg retrieval. So, so they are clinics use like brokers, intermediaries to like recruit egg donors. And so kind of a circles of friends help clinics to like find women. So online platforms were not also like used, like popularly used by the clinics, especially for the clinic I did my research. So like this friendship and like recruiting friends, as they call it, like kind of the way how they are like most egg donors were being recruited by the clinics. And sperm donors are like on paper, like officially the regulation requires clinics to like use internationally certificated sperms, like provided from international sperm banks. But I observed, like I saw students, university students, Turkish students come and like donate sperm. So we see like how another existing infrastructure on the island, like universities, become integrated with medical tourism. So through infrastructures of militarism, because Turkish army has a presence on the island. So through existing infrastructures of militarism, education and tourism, including medical tourism, Northern Cyprus has emerged as Turkey's political and ethical gray zone, an offshore site where what is illegal in Turkey can be practiced, including gambling tourism since the 1990s, IVF tourism over the last 2 decades, and since the 2012 abortion tourism. So since the early 2000s, Northern Cyprus has emerged as an attractive destination for reproductive travels, joining the competitive fertility market in the region, along with like the Republic of Cyprus, Israel, Dubai, and Lebanon. Reproduction is now transnationally, yet unevenly distributed, if I use feminist STS scholar Michelle Murphy's term. Reproduction is distributed between Turkey and Northern Cyprus in and through relations of paternal and familial dependency between these two countries. And these relations of dependency has been shaped by a post-colonial past, as well as current neoliberal economic transformations, neoconservative policies, biotechnological exchanges, and mobility of people and biological substances. The technological stigma of reproductive technologies is also being distributed within such a transnational setting, because now like gamete donation is forbidden in Turkey, so Turkish people can explain to others that an IVF baby must undoubtedly be their own child, because in like fertility treatment, only their own gametes are used. So this way, like Cyprus becomes only associated with gamete donation, and Turkey's the like like landscape of reproductive technologies becomes only associated with IVF treatment using one's own gametes. So this like kind of helps the distribution of technological stigma as well, kind of contributing to the normalization of fertility treatment in Turkey, but further stigmatizes gamete donation. And in this context, going to Cyprus begins to refer to seeking gamete donation. So now I would like to present some ethnographic data to reveal the complex nature of reproductive travels of Turkish citizens between these two countries, and the ways in which these reproductive transgressions are carefully navigated through ontological and epistemological choreographies in coordination with the clinical staff and also allies from among friends and family members. So here I will focus on mainly three forms of epistemological choreographies, covering up going to Cyprus, which refers to gamete donation, like seeking gamete donation. Other one is resemblance, and finally, pregnancy as an embodied space of epistemological choreography. So one of the couples I met in November 2015 at Clinical Delta was, this couple were Ali and Fatma. So they were undergoing egg donation. Ali was a janitor and Fatma was a housewife. They were in their mid-40s. And the age of the woman I talked to at the clinic ranged from 20 to 50s, and the age of man ranged from mid-20s to 60. Ali and Fatma changed IVF doctors several times in different cities in Turkey. Eventually, one doctor suggested they go to Cyprus, referring to you should seek gamete donation. In their case, egg donation. And this was their third egg donation attempt in Northern Cyprus. The first attempt had taken place in a different clinic, and the next two in Clinic Delta. So, and all their three attempts were monitored by the same doctor in Turkey. So this same doctor work with different clinics, including Clinic Delta. Fatma got pregnant on the second attempt, but miscarried. They waited for 6 months to start their third attempt to collect enough money for the procedure with the help of their families and friends. And in Ali's words, 4,000, 5,000 euros was not a small amount of money. Our families and friends helped us. There was even someone we didn't know in person who sent us 700 Turkish liras during Ramadan, as fitre given during the Ramadan. So we see like for some couples, like it's kind of a financially demanding process. So the couples I talked to mostly come from like the lower to middle class backgrounds. And so they didn't say like they are going to Cyprus and seeking egg donation. This couple told others that they were supposedly going to Ankara for IVF using their own gametes. So in this case, usually couples say that they are going to another city to pursue like normal IVF because to cover up their 3 to 5 days absence because they are traveling, so they need like legitimate excuse to explain like why they are away for a few days. So that's why they are saying we are going to another city. In this way, they are saying like we stay in Turkey and like it is still like IVF treatment using their own gametes. And so during their stay, for example, they explain, so their interview, like their accounts, like full of like practices of secrecy, like how they kind of avoid from international phone calls from Turkey. So they kept their phones silent or closed, not to receive international phone calls because it can relieve that like they are in another country. Or even, I guess Ali told me like they kept heating system open, not to like make not to reveal their neighbors that like they are away. So, or they didn't let their friends to take them to the airport, like such like many details. And like Ali and Fatima, most couples I talked to in Clinic Delta, they said they were prepared for everything and were willing to do whatever it takes to have a child. So as long as others wouldn't find out about their like requests for donor gametes. And going on holiday is like sometimes it is also used by patients to cover up their travel to Northern Cyprus. But for couples like Ali and Fatma, who are kind of in need of financial, like in need of money, so it's not a good excuse to use. Because like going to holiday means that you are kind of spending your money for some luxuries, not for treatment. So for example, Fatma explained it this way: people would judgmentally demand why we are going on holiday instead of going to the doctor. So like going on holiday is like, it can be a good excuse for some couples, maybe like middle or like upper class people, not for like lower class people who are saving money. So similarly, idioms of resemblance and pregnancy are also used by Turkish couples as ontological and epistemological choreographies to navigate their the politics of knowing around their transgressive family making. Resemblance, the issue of resemblance has been studied by many scholars in different contexts of transnational gamete donation. And like, for example, like Czech Republic, Spain, Romania, like scholars have like showed us how these countries have emerged as attractive destinations, like geographies or similarity and like desirability for perceived and desired resemblance, or perceived and desired whiteness for Western European people to have like white children through donor eggs, as an example of both ontological and epistemological choreographies. Similarly, in my study, resemblance emerged as a central theme, and like a practice of epistemological and ontological choreography. In Northern Cyprus, gamete donation is anonymous, meaning that recipients and donors remain unknown to each other. Even in Clinic Delta, egg donors were usually asked to use the back stairs outside to avoid them meeting couples in the corridor. So kind of infrastructure, like physical choreography was performed to keep kind of epistemological choreography. Therefore, couples must trust the matching done by the clinics on the basis of physical similarities between recipients and donors. In other words, for Turkish citizens, Northern Cyprus appears as an attractive fertility destination where desired resemblance is expected to be facilitated and secured by clinics through the recruitment of Turkish donors, which in this case works both as ontological and epistemological choreography to create and maintain a proper legitimate family ideal. So in couples accounts, resemblance takes various meanings, ranging from ideals of beauty and education to find phenotypical similarities to shared ethnic origins and culture. For example, one couple explain like resemblance this way. It wasn't just Turkish or not, it is more like cultural, social, and physical resemblance. Imagine that we had it from Blacks. You cannot explain it to society. It is physically obvious, and also social and cultural behaviors, because you give so much effort in this. And his wife says, my children are very smart, both are university graduates. This is one of the most important criteria. Additionally, they don't have any health problems. That's all. I had also sent the photos of myself, my grandchild, my children, and my sister to give a sense of my family portrait and so ensure donor to be more similar. So in this case, this couple was undergoing egg donation, but the woman already had 2 children from her previous marriage. They also have some age difference. So husband's first marriage, and he didn't have a child. So they decided to like undergo egg donation. And she also explained it like this will be her second like chance in motherhood, because she became mother like in early like 20s. So she like sees this like second marriage as also like a second chance for motherhood. So they decided to pursue egg donation. And she says like, I have beautiful family. So like idea of beauty was also very important to her. In many couples accounts, resemblance also connects to the legitimacy of ties established and protected on the basis of marriage and sexual morality. In this respect, for example, the comparison made between sperm and egg donation by Ali and Fatma is very interesting. So when I asked them, like, because they are pursuing egg donation, I asked them about like sperm donation. Ali told me there are many children in foster care then. And Fatma continues from, it's like from another man. It is more like, it's also ridiculous according to our religion. It is like you're married and fooling around with another man. Nothing is better than that. Like, it is like better not to pursue it, like sperm donation. And when I ask them like, what about egg donation? Fatma says it is from like from a woman to a woman, it is different. And when I asked them about like if they consulted a religious expert about this, Fatma says, no, we didn't. And Ali's brother, they say he is a Hoja, like religiously trained person. Oops. And they didn't ask him because they kind of worried like if he would suspect that they were like considering doing it. So they didn't ask, but kind of moralized like egg donation over sperm donation. And I also saw like there were also other couples who kind of did such like moral choreographies. Sometimes they did it even if they feel that it's like religiously wrong, or they they actually try to find a religious expert that would confirm and like will permission, or they just like ignore it, like different like kind of moral choreographies to deal with the ambivalent status of gamete donation. So here we see like because of its sexual connotations, sperm donation was more stigmatizing than egg donation for couples like Fatma and Ali, who were undergoing egg donation. However, for most couple, even if they are like seeking egg donation, the decision wasn't, of course, easy one to make. And as I said, they said like we did it anyway, even if like we know it's kind of religiously forbidden. So in other words, the relation to reproductive technologies is not only a relation of hope, but also of ambivalence, as Sarah Franklin suggests. So ontological and epistemological choreographies are also moral and affective choreographies. So for couples like Fatma and Ali seeking egg donation seems more acceptable than adoption, while adoption seems to be more acceptable than sperm donation. So for them, egg donation, adoption, and sperm donation. However, for couples that require donor sperm, sperm donation seems to be relatively better than adoption. So we see like this order of reproductive options is contingent and open to change, and also open to their conditions. So this order can change. And one woman actually told me that you cannot hide adoption, but you can hide this, referring to sperm donation. So in this respect, besides resemblance, pregnancy also emerged as an embodied space of ontological and epistemological choreography to conform to and perform the heterobionormative family ideal. So in the case of egg donation, for women, pregnancy establishes biological ties with the baby. But as many couples accounts reveal, pregnancy matters not only in the cases of egg donation, but also in the cases of sperm donation. For example, here, the woman says, so she underlines that she also makes comparison between adoption and the sperm donation, and she says like sperm donation is better than adoption, because also she underlines the importance of pregnancy. It will grow and feed in her belly, and nobody will know it. So you can hide the use of donor sperm. So these are Suna and Jamil were maternal cousins in their early 30s, married for 8 years. And she expressed her gratitude, like her husband kind of agreed to 30 sperm donation. And this way she can also experience pregnancy if it works, and also they think they can also easily hide it, like their use of donor sperm. And maybe in their case also being cousins might be also helpful ontologically to kind of establish a relationship through pregnancy. So unlike in adoption, here we see through the pregnant belly of the woman, couples expect to keep hidden not only the use of donor sperm, but also male infertility itself. So we see pregnancy becomes an embodied space of ontological choreography to establish kin ties, and also keep hidden the stigmatized forms of reproduction. And here I can give examples from the context of adoption and surrogacy to help you better understand how idiom of pregnancy works as an embodied space of epistemological choreography. For example, one example is from fiction. So it is a Turkish movie album. So it is about a Turkish couple who is pursuing adoption in Turkey, and the movie depicts different measures this couple takes to conceal their adopted child's origins, like their adoption. And they, so for example, the woman wears fake belly, and like they stage pregnancy photo shoots. And so here we see like how like the pregnancy, also fake pregnancy, became integrated into like the context of adoption, kind of a epistemological and ontological choreography. And similarly, especially in 2015, the media news, like some cases of surrogacy hit the media news, media headlines, and we saw such photos and like headlines saying that Turkish women who are seeking surrogacy abroad, they are using fake silicone bellies to hide their use of surrogacy. So similarly, in this context, we see like pregnancy also works as an embodied space of choreography. In conclusion, transnational reproduction can tell us how IVF reproduces more than babies. It includes biomedical services and markets, reproductive desires and conformity, and social norms and inequalities. So here I try to show you the ways in which Turkey's current ideological, social, and economic transformations shape the dynamics for the material and discursive remaking of borders and boundaries of the Turkish families in Northern Cypriot IVF clinics. These disguised reproductive travels between Northern Cyprus and Turkey constitutes a transnational network of complicity and duplicity involving diverse actors with multiple stakes and at various scales. Through this reproductive network distributed and choreographed across individual and national political bodies, time and space, gamete donation becomes a socio-technical, technological arena intertwined with relations of hope and ambivalence, not only for making babies and parents, but also for reproducing kinship, family, nation, and gender norms, as long as it is kept secret from others. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Burcu, for such interesting presentation. Okay, so we already have one question. How, Marcin? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I say it was just clapping, applauding, not the raised hand, but I do have a question as well. So yeah, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, is it the right moment? Yeah, okay, I'll go ahead. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for the interesting talk. I just had one kind of technical question and then another one about concepts. The technical one, did I understand it correctly that there is that the use of gametes, donor gametes in Turkey